Good afternoon from Nairobi, Kenya's capital. It's 1 p.m. and you are tuned in to The Ambassador. I am your ambassador, Paul Mathenge. This is the space where we debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics. And here in GBS, we say a happy Mazingira Day to Kenyans. And now, President William Ruto today led Kenyans in marking Mazingira Day, a national event dedicated to promoting climate action, tree planting, and sustainable living. The celebration was held at the State House in Nairobi, drawing thousands of participants from across the country. President Ruto, leading senior government officials, community leaders, and environmental activists, spearheaded a massive tree planting exercise amid accelerating Kenya's journey toward achieving 15 billion trees by 2032. In his address, the president called on Kenyans to take personal responsibility in protecting the environment, saying the fight against climate change cannot be left to the government alone. He also emphasized that environmental protection is not just an ecological duty, but also an economic opportunity.
Ni siku ya muhimu tena katika taifa letu la Kenya. Tumekubaliana na wizara ya mambo ya mazingira. Everybody should stand where they are standing. It's okay. You don't have to move. Mwambie huyu mtu anatangatanga, huyu mtu anatangatanga, anaenda wapi? So, leo ni siku tena ya muhimu ya mazingira katika taifa letu la Kenya. Katika kila primary school tunapanda miti katika ile mpango yetu ya taifa la Kenya ya kupanda miti bilioni 15 ambayo tuliamua ya kwamba kabla ya mwaka wa 2032 katika taifa letu la Kenya tuwe tumepanda miti bilioni 15, na ni kwa sababu miti ni ya muhimu. Leo katika primary schools zetu zote, siku hii moja, mpango yetu ni kuhakikisha kwamba tunapanda miti milioni 100 siku ya leo. Na katika kila primary school, mahali mtu amesomea, kila secondary school, mahali mtu amesomea, tunawaomba Wakenya wote, kila mmoja wetu aende katika shule amesomea, atusaidie kupanda miti katika mashule yetu. Tukiwa tunapanda miti vile vile katika sehemu zile zingine zote ambazo tumekubaliana tutapanda miti. Vile vile tumekubaliana ya kwamba tunapanda miti katika sehemu mbalimbali katika misitu yetu ambapo miti imekatwa. Tumekubaliana we are reforesting all the areas that initially had been deforested for one reason or another. We have agreed that we are going to look for sensitive areas, water catchment areas, watershed areas, and make sure that we plant trees, because trees are very important in matters to do with the environment of the Republic of Kenya. We are taking this step because climate change is a reality. The conversation globally, in every meeting, in every international conference, conversation that is going on globally is about.
And now, here at GBS, again we say a happy Mazingira Day to all Kenyans as we continue to champion the day. And now, for the 13th consecutive day, protesters filled the streets of Morocco's capital on Thursday, demanding sweeping reforms on jobs, housing, healthcare, and education. The Generation Z-led movement, which began on late September, has rapidly spread to major cities, including Casablanca, as Susan Nganga reports.
The protest in Morocco, led by youth movement known as Gen Z 212, entered their 13th day as of today. The movement is demanding broad reforms including improvements in jobs, housing, health, and education. These protests have gained momentum through decentralized anonymous organizing on social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, with a large participation of young people expressing frustration over high unemployment, corruption, and the government spending priorities.
Legitimate demands. We are not asking for anything extraordinary. We want healthcare, education, and jobs. We need to find solutions for internships.
The demonstrations, which started on September 27th, have seen both peaceful protest and clashes with security forces, leading to injuries, arrest, and sadly, the deaths of 3 protesters following violent confrontations in some cities.
Today we are demanding what we shouldn't have to ask for in the first place, but rather should have existed beforehand. What is happening now is unacceptable from the government. We shouldn't come out for health and education.
Protesters want King Mohammed VI to take the lead in addressing corruption and social issues. Despite the violence, the youth emphasize a largely peaceful movement aiming for systemic reforms, including demands for an impartial judiciary and better health and education infrastructure. Susan Nganga, GBS News, Morocco.
Now, from Morocco's protest, we move on to Madagascar's protest. Police have continued to use tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse agri-protest in Madagascar. The 2 weeks straight of anti-government protest that look not to be stopping any soon. So at least 1,000 protesters marching down in its capital city, Antananarivo. They say the government has failed to live in its mandate to provide basic human wants like water and electricity. They say corruption escalating in broad daylight. Our own reporter has more.
Since 25th of September 2025, protests have been rocking across the East African country of Madagascar. In the capital, Antananarivo, police were seen engaging in battles with picketers who relied on massful protection. The law enforcers firing rubber bullets and tear gas on Gen Z protesters who called on the resignation of President Andry Rajoelina, rubbishing his offers for dialogue. Businesses were also seen shut down along the streets.
We will have to close the restaurant because there are no more customers. You can't keep merchandise and there's no money. I support the protest because I'm a victim. I'm one of the victims.
This comes 3 days after embattled President Rajoelina appointed Army General Zafi Sambo in a bid to quell youth-led demos against his rule, saying that this move was necessary to restore order and trust among the citizens. What Gen Z protest movement known as Gen Z Mada have rejected without a blink. They tabled a 48-hour ultimatum for Rajoelina's departure from office. Matthew Perez for GBS News.
Now moving on, in a major legal rebuke to the Trump administration, a federal judge in Illinois has temporarily blocked the deployment of National Guard troops to Chicago and other parts of the state. The ruling underscored mounting judicial resistance to the use of military force in domestic law enforcement operation. The Trump administration planned to federalize and deploy National Guard troops into Illinois, ostensibly to assist the immigration enforcement and protect federal assets, has been halted for now by Judge April Perry, who called the administration's evidence inadequate and warned of escalating tensions. On October 9th, Judge April Perry granted a 14th-day temporary restraining order blocking the federalization or deployment of National Guard troops within Illinois. She ruled there was no credible evidence of rebellion in the state justifying military intervention. Moreover, She warned that introducing troops could add fuel to the fire amid existing tensions around immigration enforcement.
For the state of Illinois, but for the entire country. The question of state sovereignty was addressed in this decision. The judge has ordered that the National Guard of the United States, whether they're from Texas or any other one of the 50 states, should not be deployed within the state of Illinois. So it is up to the defendants to make certain that they abide by the judge.
And now the ambassador will take a short break. We'll be right back with more as we debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics. Stay tuned.
It is not just about wearing a crown or looking pretty on social media. It is about how much you can impact the community. What can you do with the title you hold? Actually a young model in the industry. I started modeling this year in school. Actually I used to go to International Youth Fellowship where we had a modeling class. I used to study fashion and design, and we had a modeling class. So I am high fashion trained. On Instagram, Kelly.Omuhaya. On TikTok, Miss Omuhaya.
Now tell us about that moment when you had your name that you won Miss Kasarani 2025-2026.
What I would like to advise you is keep going. Put God first. Be resilient. Be a go-getter. Find joy within yourself. Walk with pride. Chin up. Smile. You are a queen. He who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. That makes me always rise, knowing that I have something that is greater than what people can see.
Hello kids! Today we are going to learn the story about Jesus feeding 5,000 people. Do you know of any other miracle that Jesus Christ did? Do you know which work Jesus Christ used to do? My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. 5 tiny barley loaves, 2 small fish in a little boy's lunchbox. Although it wasn't much, he gave it to Jesus.
Jina ni Coach Martin Musili. I'm a coach, as I've stated. E-sport nilitambua since 2015-2016.
Kuna sports mingi man, but nilikusiga kwa fencing. Kwa e-sport kuna kitele, kuna pesa kweli.
In as much as tunaiplay, tunaitumia pia kama life skills. Si shule peke yake, pia corporates. Na tunakuja tunafunza strategic thinking. It can create an avenue for a scholarship. If maybe anacheza shule, a scholarship. Maybe anaweza advertise ile corporate.
Nini imekukiptoa game, like ni strategy gani unatumia? Like unafikiria strategy ndio imenyekanga hapa, ndio unafikiria kupeleka mbali. Alafu utaniambia ni strategy gani imekumake unatumia as a player, ona ile strategy yangu inafanyanga na win game. Atenda as a coach, ni strategy gani unaonanga hii nikitumia nasaidia player wangu kudefeat opponent wake. Requirements zangu ni nini? Nini nataka kwa fencer? What are the requirements?
All you have to be, as long as you can walk, you can move your arms, and you can think on your feet, you can fence.
Ili kujua mengi, jiunge nami Omala Brian kwenye GBS TV Sports Sugu Show. This is where passion meets the game.
was the most, Trigona.
SK the DJ Ava, aka the Mix Wizard.
Don't call me MC Slingshot.
If the flag don't pick up, I'ma lose it. All I need is grass, meaning boozy. I'm worried about Jana Juicy. Yeah. Comparing me to these rappers, ni got kuni tusi. Wale dani masa ni chize kesha mbuzi.
Mbuzi in this reference inamaanisha nini? Oh, you're the god!
Ndio.
Tulikuwa tuna wasanii wa shule kila Friday unaitwa form 4 wakanilipia my first video.
Yeah.
Nikaingia shule nikagwa shukrani.
Ngoje shule yako ilikuwa
Yeah, nilipia kila kitu, audio, video.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back to The Ambassador as we continue to break down the development news for you and get the bigger picture on what's happening globally. Now to the story which will bring us the diplomatic lens today. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has hailed the Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal as desperately needed breakthrough, praising the diplomatic effort behind it and urging all sides to seize the moment to turn the truce into lasting peace. Let's have a look. The UN chief applauded the diplomatic efforts by the United States, Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey in securing a ceasefire and the release of hostages, calling it a vital step toward ending the bloodshed.
I welcome the announcement last night of an agreement to secure a ceasefire and hostage release in Gaza, based on the proposal put forward by President Donald J. Trump. And I commend the diplomatic efforts of the United States, Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey in brokering the desperately needed breakthrough. We have all waited far too long for this moment. Now we must make it truly count. I urge all parties to fully abide by the terms of the agreement and to fully embrace the opportunities it presents. All hostages must be released in a dignified manner. A permanent ceasefire must be secured. The bloodshed must stop once and for all. And the United Nations will provide its full support.
Guterres affirmed that the United Nations is ready to act immediately with food, medical supplies, and shelter materials already in the place to support civilians once access is granted.
We and our partners are prepared to move now. We have the expertise, the distribution networks, the community relationships in place to act. Supplies are in place and our teams are on standby. We can scale up food, water, medical and shelter assistance at once. But to turn this ceasefire into real progress, we need more than the silencing of the guns. We need full, safe and sustained access for humanitarian workers, the removal of red tape and impediments, and the rebuilding of shattered infrastructure.
He urged all sides to fully comply with the agreement and use this momentum to pursue a permanent ceasefire, a two-state solution, a long-term stability across the Middle East.
A path towards ending the occupation, recognizing the right to self-determination of the Palestinian people and achieving a two-state solution. A path to a just and lasting peace between Israelis and Palestinians and to wider peace and security in the Middle East.
Emphasizing the power of diplomacy, Guterres reminded the world that true solutions comes from negotiation, not violence, and called on member states to fully fund humanitarian operations to sustain peace efforts.
And we need member states to ensure that humanitarian operations are properly funded to meet the immense needs. We must never forget the unbearable human cost of this conflict. I mourn all of the lives lost, including United Nations personnel and humanitarian workers, and pay tribute to our colleagues who continue to serve with courage and compassion in conditions of extreme risk. This breakthrough shows us the power and potential of diplomacy. Let it be a reminder that the solutions to conflicts are not found on the battlefield. They must be forged at the negotiating table. And then, crucially, they must be fully implemented. The world is watching.
For Israelis and Palestinians alike, Guterres says this movement must mark not just the silence of guns, but the dawn of peace.
For Israelis and Palestinians alike, this deal offers a glimmer of relief. And that glimmer must become the dawn of peace, the beginning of the end of this devastating war. I urge all to seize this momentous opportunity to establish a credible political path forward.
Reporting for GBH TV, I'm Paul M. Minor. Now moving on now to international sports. Scotland continued the impressive World Cup qualifying campaign with a 3-1 victory over Greece in Glasgow on Thursday night. Despite falling behind of a second half goal from Costa Team-makers, Steve Clarke's side responded with character and quality as Ryan Christie, Lewis Ferguson and Leydon Dux all found the net to maintain Scotland unbeaten run in Group C. And now, in front of a packed crowd at Hampden Park, Scotland faced a stern test against a determined Greek side, and once again they delivered. Despite a Navy second half that saw the victors break the deadlock, Steve Clarke's men showed exactly why they remain one of the form teams in World Cup qualifying. The response was swift and decisive. Scotland hit back to level the score, igniting belief across the stadium. With momentum on their side, they pushed forward and the comeback was complete, but they weren't done yet. In stoppage time, the result was put beyond doubt. It was a performance full of character and resilience. Now to Kenya's team, the Harambee Stars. Kenya's Harambee Stars have once again shown their growing strength on the continental stage after edging out Burundi with a narrow but impressive 1-0 victory in an international friendly match played in Bujumbura. The match, which was played in Bujumbura, has placed Kenya's national team in the limelight ahead of the African Cup of Nations, as Davis Karani reports.
The match played under humid evening conditions saw the Stars dominate possessions from the first whistle with crisp passing, coordinated pressing and attacking flair that left the home side on the back foot. Michael Ogada Olunga, the ever-reliable captain, led from the front, troubling Burundi's defense with his movement and strength.
Very difficult game to play, especially under the conditions, the pitch, the temperatures, of course, but look, our team, we tried to contain Burundi as much as possible, and we knew it was going to be a physical game, and I believe that was their tactic, and yes, physicality is allowed in football, but not aggressive physicality. So every challenge they complained to the referee, everything, every loose ball, they wanted it. So it wasn't a game to enjoy, and for us, we are happy with the 3 points. We are happy with the 1-0.
Mimi kwangu mechi ya wachezaji wangu napaswa kusema wamefanya mechi nzuri, lakini siwezi nikasema wamefanya mechi nzuri kwa sababu Warundi hawakuwa wanachunga mechi nzuri. Warundi walikuwa wakichunga ushindi na ushindi hatukupata.
The breakthrough came in the 67th minute when Kenya's midfielder Richard Odada unleashed a stunning low drive from outside the box, beating the Burundian keeper to seal the win for Kenya. Kenya's defense, marshaled by Daniel Anyembe and Joseph Okumu, stood firm, ensuring the hosts never found their rhythm, despite late pressure in the dying minutes. Fans back home have lauded the team growing chemistry and renewed sense of purpose under the coach, with many describing the performance as a sign of bright future for Kenya's football.
Today was a very tough match. First, because of the conditions. For us, we are not used to playing on a pitch, a surface like this. So, from the beginning, it makes it really hard to play the way we want to play. So, yeah. So that made it very tough for us to play to the rhythm that we know we can play. And then also, in the first minute, when you suffer, your goalkeeper receive medical attention where he has a 5-inch cut above his eye, which for me was very dangerous.
With confidence high and momentum building, Harambee Stars now looks ahead to the tougher challenges. But for now, it is smiles all around after a well-earned victory in Bujumbura. Davis Karani for GBS News, Bujumbura.
And now, welcome to the diplomatic lens. Today, the world watches and adheres to hope as a long-awaited breakthrough emerges from years of war and despair. A ceasefire and hostage release deal in Gaza. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has hailed it as a momentous opportunity, a chance to pave a credible path toward ending the occupation, recognizing Palestinian self-determination and achieving a two-state solution. Yet, even as leaders celebrate, one question lingers. Can this fragile truce withstand the weight of decades of distrust? Brokered by the United States, Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey. The agreement comes 2 years and 2 days after the Hamas-led attack on Israel that killed 1,200 people and ignited a devastating conflict that has claimed more than 67,000 lives in Gaza. Under the plan, Israel will begin a phased withdrawal while Hamas releases all remaining hostages, and Israel in turn frees about 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. A multinational force from Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and the UAE will oversee the truce, while hundreds of aid trucks begin rolling into a territory where famine and ruin have defined daily life. But can aid and diplomacy truly heal the wounds of war? For many, this movement is more than a political agreement. It is a test of humanist will to replace vengeance with vision and conflict with coexistence. As Guterres affirmed, the United Nations stood ready to move supplies in place, teams on standby, and hope hanging directly in the balance. Now, the question now is whether this ceasefire marks the dawn of lasting peace or merely another fragile pause in an endless cycle of pain? This is the Diplomatic Lens. Today's edition of The Ambassador, I have been your ambassador, Paul Mathenge. It has been great having you with me here on GBS TV Africa. Stay tuned for updates throughout the day, and be sure to join me every Thursday and Friday as we continue to debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics. Thank you for your time and company. Until then, goodbye.
Everywhere, GBS.